and thank you for joining us. I'm Catalina Gillies. The Thunder Bay District Health Unit has been moving ahead the dates for second doses in recent weeks, and the next period targeting those over 18 comes very soon. Starting Monday, adults in Ontario can move up their second dose of either the Pfizer or Moderna shots. The advanced bookings will be done so that everyone who moves ahead their second dose will receive it at least 28 days after their initial vaccination. Medical Officer of Health Dr. Janet DeMille expects their phone lines to be busy, with the younger crowd being among the highest vaccination rates.
There will be appointments available at pharmacies. There'll be appointments available at various clinics, both in Thunder Bay and the district. And, we're going to try to get it out as fast as we can. We're going to likely, I think we've got more appointments in the provincial booking system that are going to open up this week. So we're really trying to have appointments available for people to book into next week.
The health unit has also begun daily backup lists for those eligible for their second dose. Each day at 9 a.m., locals can sign up to receive any extra doses the health unit has, so long as they can make it within 30 minutes to the CLE grounds. June 21st marked National Indigenous Peoples Day across Canada. For many, it was a day to learn about Indigenous culture and ceremonies, but it also served as a reminder of the atrocities at Canada's residential schools, some of which have been uncovered in recent weeks. In Dryden, this week had an even deeper impact as one of its main roadways was decolonized to make way for the future. Adam Riley has the details.
The gathering was smaller than usual due to COVID-19 restrictions, but the atmosphere was full of life for the 2021 National Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations in Dryden. Drummers and dancers performed while onlookers watched in a socially distant manner. But for Dryden Native Friendship Centre Executive Director Cheryl Edwards, Monday's event had a much deeper spiritual meaning in light of the recent discoveries of the bodies of children who attended residential schools in unmarked burial sites. She says it is the children who are able to carry the language, traditions, and teachings into the future.
And for many in the residential school who never made it home, their families never had an opportunity to do that. And we are hopeful with some of the programming that we have that we can bring that type of tradition and culture to every family who wants to seek it.
Monday also marked the end of one road and the beginning of two new roads in Dryden. Earlier this month, the road signs that designated Colonization Avenue were removed and replaced with Memorial and Beaujeu Avenues. For Edwards, it marks the culmination of an exciting year.
I'm so pleased that the residents had not only the understanding, the knowledge, and the wanting to change it, as well as the Indigenous community. And it's finally here, and it's something that we achieved as the Working Circle, and the City of Dryden had the courage to be able to support us with that as well.
Mayor Greg Wilson says he was hit with a melody of feelings, including relief, finality, and enthusiasm as he saw the names change. Noting prior to the Working Circle, the city had no mechanism to have meaningful, consistent dialogue with groups wanting to tackle issues in the city, like renaming Colonization Avenue.
Once we got the Working Circle established, we had a vehicle to be able to include, the 5 members, the Indigenous representative, Métis, included for sure, and as well as municipal staff and councillors. So we finally got the mix together and the right structure.
In addition to the name change, the Working Circle also helped council adopt a land acknowledgement similar to other municipalities in the region, and will now take a small break before reconvening in the fall. Adam Riley, TBT News.
The City of Dryden continues to weigh the pros and cons of its policing costs of its current municipal service or an OPP-led service. One councillor believes the choice is obvious and is questioning the reasons of those who pushed for a second costing in 4 years.
At the end of the day, you wonder about the motivation for doing this.
Councillor Shane McKinnon says the cost increase between the OPP's 2018 proposal and its 2021 proposal should have been enough of an indicator for council to not consider the OPP to take over policing services, especially considering the city is still $8 million in debt. He believes this council has had its shot in this decision and that it should be made by the next council or on the ballot for the 2022 municipal election. McKinnon says the numbers presented appear to be dubious at best. As a result, he believes council has changed the argument by looking at the crime severity index as a reason to justify the switch.
You know, it's really disturbing that would be brought up when the whole essence of this new costing was the fact that we were so much higher in our policing costs than everyone else, which really we aren't. And that's been actually borne out in the numbers as well that we receive from the OPP. They're higher than what we pay now. You know, as a taxpayer as well as a councillor here, that's $1 million more a year.
McKinnon, who previously served as the city's chief of police, notes there is a belief that the city will see a financial return on making the switch within a decade, but he's skeptical of that happening, as provincial and municipal service rarely go down in cost within 10 years. It's been just over a year since the murder of George Floyd, which sparked a worldwide protest against racial injustice. Having been found guilty of murder in April, Derek Chauvin was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison on Friday. Floyd's family gave their reaction to the sentencing, with some believing the punishment isn't enough.
Dear God, we come to the same spot we bowed at the beginning of the trial, asking you to give this family strength.
1 year and 1 month after George Floyd's life was extinguished, Derek Chauvin is handed a historic 22.5-year sentence.
And because you raised your voices, that is why we got the guilty conviction.
Though some of his family says it's not enough.
You know, I was hopeful that we was going to get at least 40 years, but I don't know, just disappointed. 22 years after what happened.
We were served a life sentence. We can't get George back. Gianna can't hug George again.
It was bitter, sweet. I was expecting a lot more.
Some acknowledge they've come further than those before them.
We remember Breonna Taylor. Yeah. They never got a court date.
George Floyd's uncle tells me he can't believe a former officer was actually convicted in the first place.
I honestly thought for a brief period of time he was going to get acquitted.
You did?
Yeah.
But George is not here. There's no changing that, and that's what hurts the most.
We serving a life sentence and not having them in our life, and that hurts me to death.
Times are hard. I have a family. We wake up every day and we don't see my brother. Empty seats all around the house he would have been in.
I don't think any sentence would be enough, because what truly would be justice would be for us to be able to have George back.
So is it justice? Is it closure? It depends on who you ask. But the family hopes their struggle forced the world to learn a lesson.
Your skin color should not define who you are.
And it's still powerful, because people are still helping in the movement and fighting for justice, just moving the world, and it feels good.
A sacred fire has been burning for 26 days in the Thunder Bay area in honor of all the children found at the residential school site so far. The fire is currently at Chippewa Park, but has plans to move very soon. Mitchell Ringos has the details.
The sacred fire, which started at St. Joseph's School, has now been moved 6 times and has taken rest at Chippewa Campground. The fire is being maintained with donations and the community gathering wood. With the discovery of even more unmarked graves at former residential schools, Alvin Fiddler, Grand Chief for Anishinaabe Aski Nation, says it's important to have these ceremonies.
Everyone is affected by this. Lots of grief, lots of hurt, lots of sorrow, lots of anger, lots of outrage, and it's ceremony that grounds us and heals us ultimately. And when we had that first sacred fire at the grounds of St. Joseph's, the former site there on Arthur Street, and now here, it's so important that we have these ceremonies to keep us grounded.
It's not my fire. It's not Clarence's fire, Rita's fire, Leonard's fire. It's none of our fires. That is the children's fire.
Speaking with Sarah Yellowhead, a residential school survivor, she explains how these discoveries impacted her and that the sacred fire is helping her in the healing process.
It took a long time for me to heal. It was hard, like you feel like a heavy heart, because you cannot let go
what happened to you in the residential school. It was hard, very hard to talk about it. But then as I go through the healing slowly, one step at a time, I go through with the pain that I went through. That's how it helps me.
With more discoveries every day and multiple residential schools still to be searched, Michelle Solomon, council member for Fort William Nation, thinks that more sacred fires could start to show up around Canada.
This sacred fire is important to healing. As more discoveries are made, which we know that more discoveries will be made, I think that you will hear of more fires in more places. And that's exactly what needs to happen.
The sacred fire is still located at Chippewa for the next couple days, but could be on the move very soon. The hope is that it will continue to burn in different cities across the country. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
Join now with Avery McRae. Avery, my team, Team Germany, isn't playing until Tuesday in the Euros, but other teams were in action today.
Well, I know a lot of people in our community are very focused on Italy